What is up? This is Steve Raboin with the Crazy Creative Podcast, and I am here with a good friend of mine who is an pro IFBB bodybuilder, a really, really great guy. Super inspirational dude, really good friend of mine, Chris Tuttle. Chris, thanks.
How's it going, Steve?
It's great. Thanks for coming on the show. It's kind of interesting. This is a podcast for creatives, and I have a kind of a passion for fitness, strength and fitness, as well as creativity. And I've met Chris about 7 years ago. He helped me prepare for a bodybuilding show 7 years ago, and I kind of did one season, kind of went on with my life. But Chris has made his passion for bodybuilding his passion, and he's gone far with the sport, and I find it very interesting. His story is very inspirational to me. Just because he's in the fitness industry, I don't think it's outside of the bounds of creativity. I think that being driven and professional and setting goals for yourself and accomplishing them it applies to creatives as well as basically any industry. And I kind of want to get talking to Chris and see what he thinks. So, Chris, you recently became a IFBB pro, and you're going to be doing your first pro show pretty soon here, a couple weeks, right?
Yeah. So I'll give you guys a little background. People probably wondering why there's a bodybuilder on here, and but just like in any avenue, any endeavor that people indulge themselves in, whatever passion they are, at a certain level, it takes some sort of insane level of dedication, drive, know-how, plan, goals to create such a thing. I mean, you talk to a lot of people out there and be like, oh yeah, I bodybuild. And you're like, oh yeah, what show you've done? Oh, I don't actually compete, I just kind of bodybuild. Or they do compete in shows, but they never reach the top, or they never reach the professional status, or they never reach that ultimate goal or dream they once had when they started. Like when you're young and someone says, I wanted to be a fireman, but they never were a fireman. Over the years, I've been doing this for 10 straight years. I took about 18 months off to finish school as a career. I'm a dietitian. I'm a master's in nutrition. That kind of coincides with bodybuilding. Bodybuilding is about 80% nutrition, 10% training. So, I got my first pro show coming up, and people wonder a lot of times, a lot of pressure. It's your first pro show. You plan on winning. And you know what? Sometimes the pressure of what you've accomplished at the level you're at can take the fun out of things where, I'm sure everybody who participates in endeavor and they've been in it for years, they're not enjoying it and as excited about it as they were when they first started. And that's one thing that you can't lose sight of, because we still have the passion and drive to push forward, but sometimes the fun takes out of it, and we have to take a step back and just also enjoy the process and continue the love that we have so we don't get burned out.
Right, that's true. I think sometimes even myself, I get so caught up in trying to be at the top of the mountain right now, and you kind of lose sight of the journey. You know what I mean?
No, absolutely, and that's one thing is people tend to compare themselves to other people when in reality,
sure,
your only goal should be to be the best version that you can be. If you think about it, if you're sitting there, no matter where you go, what you do, there's always going to be somebody better, faster, stronger. There's only 0.001% of the population that's going to be that utmost GOAT, greatest of all time. Ricky Carmichael, Michael Jordan, Lance Armstrong. But we all can't be that, but we do strive for that, and that's fine. We just got to realize and keep a reality check that our real ending goal should be the best version that we can be, and that should be enough. And unfortunately, sometimes it's not for a lot of us, but we can't lose ever sight of that.
What do you think drives you? Are you a super competitive person? You were a pro motocross racer when you were younger, before bodybuilding, right?
Yeah, I started riding dirt bikes when I was 5, wanted to race when I was 10. Was never very good in the beginning, and then over time kept working at it. And my dad said to me one time, and it kind of stuck with me forever. and it probably more stuck with me now than it ever has than I realized. He said to me, Chris, don't quit because it's difficult. You know, that's too easy. Quit because you really don't want to do it anymore. Never quit something just because it's hard. And I'm like, oh man, that almost made me feel guilty when I was like 11 because I wanted to quit because it was scary. I got ran over. I had a concussion my first race. I'm like, I don't know if it's something I want to do. But in reality, I loved it. I love dirt bikes. I love riding in the woods. I love racing. I love Jerry McGrath, my heroes. And I kept putting forward, and I turned professional in 2004 and realized that, you know, it's not feasible life to live in my parents' basement spending $35,000 a year racing. So moved out and went to school and started bodybuilding, something that's much less expensive. But, man, I mean, like, it's the passion, the drive. I don't know where it comes from. I used to try to, like, justify to myself, maybe it's genetic. Maybe I'm just a really competitive weirdo.
Well, your dad's a doctor, right? So
yeah, my dad's a doctor.
A hard-working dude.
But my dad has a passion for medicine.
Okay.
And he loves his job. He told me he would never, ever retire, ever. If my dad retired, I think it would be the end of his life. I think he'd just deteriorate. But I think that keeps him going. And obviously he has a drive to do things. But, like, I don't know, man. Like, I've always been into something and into only one thing. Like, I've never been able to, like, do a little bit of soccer, a little bit of football, a little bit of this. It was only all of one thing that occupied my mind 100% of the time, all of the time. And that's just my extreme personality, whether that's, you know, nature versus nurture, I don't know, but the drive comes within. And I'm sure a lot of you guys heard it's like, if you need an external motivator to get you to do something, then that's not really passion.
Right. Passion
comes from your heart, comes from within, wherever it develops from. That's exactly where it comes from.
Right. That's funny, because I think, you know, back when I did my show, one of the first things people would ask is, did you win any money? And I'd say, like, oh, you know, I did well because, you know, your coaching is awesome, and you know, I won a trophy. And they're like, oh, well, why would you even waste your time doing that? There's no money, and you didn't win any money. And I think that's unfortunate that most people need, like, that, like,
material incentive,
right? Or like, there's no money involved, so why would you waste your time? That's dumb. Like, I don't know. I set a goal for myself and I achieved it. I think, to me, that's more valuable than money sometimes.
You know, it's funny. It's actually, in my opinion, like, you know, people are probably going to think I'm a strong person after saying this. I think it's disgusting. I think it's sickening that society's become that way. I mean, you get people being like, see a doctor and they have a nice car and they're like, oh, a doctor's making this much money, making that. Dude, they went to school for like 12 years.
Right.
They're probably like $500,000 in debt or more. And they work like 80 hours a week.
Lawsuits.
Every week. Lawsuits, malpractice, insurance. The government doesn't reimburse them for Medicare and Medicaid. It's like they work their ass off. It's not like they're just making money and they're just having money come in the door. It's not like that. And it's so weird that people only always see the tip of the iceberg. They don't see everything that went along with it. And I just can't stand that. I mean, people say to me, like, oh, why do you do it? I do it because I love it. Well, why don't you do anything with yourself? And they look at me like I'm an asshole.
Yeah. Another thing you said earlier, how you were able to focus on one thing, and I think that's really crucial. And I think that's kind of, just now I'm getting to a point where I'm like starting to focus. It's kind of like what this podcast and like my blog and my website are all about. I feel like I spent a lot of time like going down a bunch of different avenues trying to find something. And it, you know, to think that you were that driven with motocross and then you moved on to bodybuilding and you've been that driven. I find that remarkable that you've been able to focus and hone in on something and become successful at such a young age. And I think that's really, really crazy. Not crazy, but it's very impressive. You know, most people, you know, spend their entire 20s, you know, going to bars and drinking, and then by the time they're in their 30s and they have a house and kids, they're like, wait, what happened? How'd I get here?
No, I don't get that. I mean, because like, when I raced motocross, okay, so I around 15 years old, you know, I was pretty good at a young rider. You know, I was third in New England, first in Connecticut. I had sponsors, and you know, and actually it was getting really hard and difficult, and I actually did quit for about a year and a half. And I wanted to get back into racing. But as you older, you get mature, you're able to work harder, have a more driven mind. And I don't know, man. Like, in my opinion, when people say they want something, and then they give you a list of all these things they will not do, I just say to myself, they can't want it that bad, because if you want it that bad, you will do anything in your power to get there.
Sure.
Like, I will listen to a motivational video, and he told this kid to go out into the ocean and go out, and all of a sudden the guy pushes the kid down under the water, and the guy's trying to drown him, and he pulls him up, and he goes, you see how you're gasping for air? You're doing everything you can to try to get a breath of air. He goes, when you want to breathe as bad as you want to succeed, then you will succeed.
Right, yep.
It doesn't, you can't want to be a millionaire 30% of the time. It's never going to happen.
Right.
Like, these millionaires are millionaires, and their creativity, because they work their ass off for so long. Very rare does somebody just hit a pot of gold.
Yeah.
It just doesn't happen.
I think that's what people are looking for. They're looking for that winning lottery ticket. They think, a lot of times people see the result of hard work and think it was an overnight thing. They don't realize, like, somebody like yourself, they put in over a decade of hard work into something, and they're just now reaping the rewards of it. They see, oh, well, Chris is a huge guy. He must have been born that way, and he's just lucky. They don't see that, like, you're probably getting up at 4 a.m. and doing cardio sessions. You're weighing and measuring everything you put in your mouth.
I've been eating 6 to 7 meals, pretty much chicken, 4 to 5 of those meals every day for the last 10 years. Obviously, I do ground chicken, fish, and stuff, but, like, basically every day, day in and day out, this is what it's brought. And then people say to me, they do it for a year, and they're like, well, I want to be where you are. I want to be sponsored. I want to do this. I'm like, well, just keep in mind, this for 10 years.
Right.
And when I remember you and I mentioned before, like, counting the cost of something. Like, you tell somebody, hey, you can get here, but it's going to take 10 years to get there. Most people would be like, I'm not interested. I'm walking away. You can't ever count the cost of something, because it's like, in the end, in the beginning, when you're driving towards something, it should never be a material motivator.
Right.
You should be doing it because you love it. And then if you do it and you love it and you're good at it and you drive the passion, then everything just falls into place.
Sure.
And that is the missing factor that just doesn't exist today.
Right. And it's funny because that's something I found with myself. I have a couple design people that I look up to, and this one guy was like, just create something, like, every day, every week. Just create something just for you. So I started to do that. I picked up some, like, sketch pads, and, like, every day I draw, like, a logo or mess around and create something fun, something that's, like, not for money, not for fame or to put out there to get recognition, just to do it. And within a month or two, you'd be amazed how much I was able to accumulate, just random fun projects. And then that's what got me down this road. Well, what if I, instead of drawing pictures and designing, what if I looked into a podcast? What if I started writing blog posts? Because like, creativity begets creativity. Like, once you start down that path, like you're saying, like, little small goals, they ultimately will lead to that bigger pot at the end of the rainbow.
But I feel like it all starts with a drive, passion, fun.
Sure.
Like, how often are we good at something we hate? Not very often.
Yeah, right.
It's like, oh, I quit baseball because I was a professional baseball player because I hated it. No. You love playing baseball, and eventually you got there.
Yep.
And then eventually you didn't like it.
Right.
But the bottom line is, if you're into something and you like something, start digging around in that pot. Because like you just said, start creating something for fun. Oh, that gave me an idea.
Sure.
Why not do this? Then all of a sudden, that one fun thing turned into 2 ideas. That 2 ideas turned into 4.
Right.
Turned into 8.
Exactly.
And then all of a sudden, all these avenues open right up.
Totally. All right. Well, let's just take a break real quick.
Yeah.
We'll check the cameras, and we'll reset in a couple minutes. All right. Okay. So we talked about, setting goals and kind of like setting yourself up and exploring your passion and finding things you're interested in, and kind of setting goals and figuring out, like, what you want to do, and kind of setting goals and achieving them, and eventually those goals will get you where you want to be. What else do you think about that?
I think it all starts with a passion and drive, something that you enjoy to do.
Sure.
Whatever you enjoy to do, you like, you explore. You explore more than that. No matter what the external criticism is from family, friends, or whoever, you ignore them. You continue on. Whether it develops into something great or not, doesn't matter. You're still having fun.
Right.
Because it should never the goal in the end should never be a material incentive.
Sure.
If you're good at it, you like it, you're having fun, it's probably going to turn into one.
So how did you develop a passion for bodybuilding?
Well, believe it or not, it's funny. It's kind of corny, but you go back in the day with superheroes, X-Men, Superman, Wolverine.
Oh yeah.
I always
totally.
loved. Yeah, I always loved like the action figures. Arnold Schwarzenegger. They're all muscular.
Rambo.
Yeah.
That's the image we grew up on. That was like the image of men was like these big diesel dudes. Like, it's funny. I think it's kind of a weird thing going on in our country now, where it's like.
Skinny jeans, dorks.
Being a rugged, muscular man is not exactly the...
they're all like metrosexual. They're all babies with no ambition.
Right.
It's disgusting. Unbelievable. I know, but that's how it started. Like, I liked the way it looked. And when I raced motocross, I trained for motocross, and I noticed my body responded, and I started seeing more definition muscles, and my trainer for motocross is like, bodybuilding and motocross is like fire and water. You have to be like a jockey. You got to be very athletic, light, fast. So I always wanted to bodybuild. So once, motocross was over, that's how I started, because I always wanted to do it. And my only intention was just to do a show to try it.
Yep.
Because at that point in my life, I'd done triathlons at that time. I've done 5Ks, 10Ks, raced motocross, wrestled, tried different things, that are physical, because I've always liked being physical.
Sure.
And once in my first bodybuilding show, it was all like Donkey Kong. And that was it. And then I just realized that, like, bodybuilding is not one of those things where, like, you're playing a soccer game Saturday, you learn a new technique Tuesday, practice it, and you apply it Saturday. No. You go back to the drawing board, 10 months later, you build 2 pounds of muscle, and you come in leaner, sharper, more conditioned, and step on stage for 5 minutes after all year of work for 5 minutes on stage. Right. And changes are only done yearly in the off season. So, I mean, like, it's much different. The return is much, much slower. And that's it. Just, and then my drive for what it is, the drive comes from the fun and the passion. Yeah. And then it kind of morphed into just having fun and competing and wanting to be the best I could be, to me helping people because I got in good shape. And then me helping people realize I actually knew something about nutrition and understanding of bodybuilding. And then I kept bodybuilding, got better and better, then turned pro, then got sponsored by Universal. I'm a Universal endorsed athlete. Awesome. Great company. And now I run
I saw that show you guys are doing on YouTube. The
Tuttle Diaries.
The Tuttle Diaries. It's awesome. I remember telling you, Chris has a great personality. And I remember saying to you, like, man, you should have a show. You should really have a show. And then when I saw that pop up on YouTube, I was like, yes, I was so excited for that.
It's like
guns and rolling around.
Yeah, man. Just having some fun. A lot of times people think bodybuilders are just dumb idiots, but like I have an educational background. I like shooting guns. I like driving carts. I have a history of riding dirt bikes. I like to have fun too, besides being serious in the gym and lifting, weighing food, and being a weirdo into normal standards today. Sure. But and I have a career now as a dietitian. I work at a hospital. Okay.
That's your day job? Correct?
Kind of now. Well, now it's turned into I prep people for shows and help with weight loss and nutrition, and I do that mainly. That's a main source of income. And I have clients all across the country in the UK and communicate with them through email, and it's been great. But now I'm starting to develop a new passion, which is interesting. What we're talking about, it applies directly, is my passion for fitness turned into bodybuilding. Bodybuilding turned into me helping people. Then I turned professional. Then I'm starting to realize that I have a growing passion to help people achieve the same thing that I did. That's awesome. And there's a big market for that, right? I mean, huge. In becoming a IFBB pro, that's only catapulted that effort, correct? That's like an authentic stamp that you really know what the hell you're talking about. Gotcha. Oh, to a degree. I mean, it's a lot. There's some pros out there who's genetic freaks who know nothing. Right. I mean, a lot of times, a lot of athletes are like that, though. Like, even like I compete in weightlifting, and it's like, if I can go to the best guy I know and ask him how to do something, he's like, I have no idea. Yeah, the best coaches sometimes make the worst players. Right. Because a lot of times it's the guy who wasn't good enough who analyzed the sport so much and became a better coach than an actual athlete. It's funny you say that, because there's so many genetic freaks in bodybuilding and sports who ride on their pure natural talent over thought, precise precision of training and nutrition to drive them to where they are. It's more just what they're born with. And no disrespect to them, but I still view them a lot like, oh, my daddy gave me a beautiful Ferrari versus the neighbor who worked for their Ferrari. Yep. It means two different things entirely to them. Totally.
it's funny. You know, I was thinking about this before this interview. You know, I've been reading a lot of books, a lot of like success and business books, and one of the things I read was like, kind of, you got to get yourself out there. You know, one example, I've been reading like Rich Dad Poor Dad while I'm like working out in my garage, and the guy's like, you know, does McDonald's sell the best hamburger? No, they sell the best hamburger. They're the best at selling. They put themselves out there, and I take that to heart, and I'm applying that to myself. And you know, I'm not the best designer in the world, but you know what? I'll be damned. I will be the best selling designer. I will put myself out there. I'll do whatever it takes to get my name out there to be successful. Because at the end of the day, you take a designer who has the same skill set as me, but doesn't do anything, and I have the same skill set, and I'm promoting myself. I'm trying new things. What's going to look better? And it's funny because I'm thinking about you as a bodybuilder. Like, you're literally putting yourself out there. You're up there on a stage in a Speedo. Like, from the get-go, you're putting it all out there. So, like, moving beyond the stage to contact clients and to start your own thing and get your own business going, you've already put yourself out there. What else can they do to you? What else can you be afraid of at this point? You know what I mean?
Right, and that's the thing that people don't miss the understanding of. It's like, you got to get yourself out there. I mean, just like you said, especially today, the invention of social media, it's allowed so many, I'm not saying you are, but so many people who are unqualified to appear qualified.
Right, yep.
I mean, hence, put it like this, we keep voting in complete retards in our office because we're going by what they say, not actually what they do or what they've done.
Like who has the most ads. Like, you go to the ballot box and you vote for, I recognize that name. It's not like, he might not be the best
right.
candidate, but...
So, like, that goes along to show that, you like, if you got a talent, get it out there, because we're not in those days and age where someone's going to come find you.
Nope.
You got to be proactive.
Totally.
And that's one thing, man, that people missed entirely is, like, so many people complain about their situation, they never do anything about it.
Right.
Shut up, stop complaining, get off your ass and do something about it.
Totally.
I just have no patience for people who hate their situation and they don't do anything proactive to get themselves out of it. You hate your job? Great. You're making good money doing it? Even better. That means you can set yourself up to start finding an exit strategy into something that you do love.
Yep. And I think it's like almost a form of laziness when people, like, they spend more time, I feel like, finding excuses why they can't get out of their situation or why they can't improve their situation. You know what I mean? They'll always look at...
I think it's a mental disorder.
It's a pretty prevalent mental disorder. I think probably 99.9% of the population has it.
You know what it is? I think it's people are afraid to fail.
Exactly. They're afraid to get themselves out there. Like, even myself, setting this stuff out there. Every time I hit publish, I'm like, I have this like second guess in the back of my head. I can hear all my design teachers, all the people I've grown up with, like, you know, saying like, no, you're an idiot. You don't know what you're talking about. You're a moron. Like, but that's, no one's saying that. That's like my head's telling that to me, trying to make me second guess what I'm doing.
Right.
You know what I mean? But you got to kind of have to shut that off and say, well, who cares? You know, like, I can say what I want. Like, why can't I try to be like the next Steve Jobs or the next whatever, you know, whatever I want to be, you know what I'm saying? Like,
I know, especially listening to Steve Jobs' story.
Yeah.
That's the best. Bill Gates' story.
Yeah. Like,
Albert Einstein is going to be the worst student of all time.
Right, but like, why not? Why can't you? It's like, I see all these people and they're doing these great things, and I think to myself, like, well, I'm not going to do anything great just sitting on my ass.
No.
I might fail horribly and I might come off like a complete moron and make a fool out of myself, but at least I can say, you know what, at least I tried. You'll never be successful if you don't make that first push.
Nobody remembers a could've. People do remember people who tried.
Yep.
And if you don't, do you want to go through life looking back, think, man, only if I just did that. I never want to do that. I want to look back and be like, shit, man, that was really hard. I gave it my all, but it just didn't pan out. But boy, that was a good effort.
Yeah, nobody can ever say like, well, you know, you were awful at bodybuilding. That was really dumb. You shouldn't have done that. I mean, people will only say like, that's awesome. That's crazy. I can't believe you did that. Like, I'm jealous. Like, I'm not jealous, but I look at you, I'm like, wow, I'm inspired. Like, it's funny, we were talking earlier, and I'm like, man, I thought I was working hard, you know, trying to put my stuff together, and hearing the laundry list of things you do, I was like, wow, that is a hard-working motherfucker right there.
You know, and let's talk about one thing that nobody ever really talks about. Anybody who's at the top, I'm not saying like the top, but like, this is the top of my dream. I never ever thought in my life I'd ever be a professional bodybuilder. I never thought I'd be endorsed by a company. I never thought I'd be making this as much money as I do, doing what I love. I work 10 hours a day doing what I do, and I don't even feel like I worked. There are times where you question yourself.
Yep.
There are times where you feel like not doing it. There are times you want to quit. There's going to be down times where you're like, oh my God, like this is so hard. I don't know if I want to do this anymore. It's not all peaches and cream all the time.
Sure.
It's not. And that's one thing I think people don't survive the downs.
Yeah.
They let the downs derail them. You can't. You got to keep pushing forward through the times where you feel depressed, you feel sad, you're tired, things aren't working out, your car crashes, your dog dies, your family member passes away. You still have to keep pushing forward.
Sure.
You can't let any external environment stress derail you from your dream. You can still, do what you got to do to mourn or do what you ever have to do in your situations, but it shouldn't prevent you from doing it. I hear too many times people say, I was doing so well until this happened, and then I got off course and I couldn't get back on track.
Right.
Bullshit.
Yeah. It's funny because you say that because I've been really trying to work on myself mentally. Working a lot of like positive thinking. There's this app that I use called 5 Minute Journal. In the morning, you kind of like 8 a.m. it goes off and you list like 3 things you're grateful for, and then 3 things you want to accomplish today, and then 3 things that would make your life awesome. And then you fill it out again at 9 o'clock at night before you go to bed. And I've been doing it for a couple of months now, and it's funny because once you start getting down that positive train of thought, a lot of that negative goes away. And when the negative goes away, it kind of like frees your mind to think of possibilities, kind of think of creativity and like creative solutions to problems. So something happens, I'm like, okay, well, how are we going to get through this, and how can we get beyond it? Versus, oh shit, this happened, might as well roll over and die.
Yeah, you have a plan, a mindset to derail you out of that rut.
Right, because it's weird how like your mental state, like if once you get into that negative state, it kind of you spiral downward. It's tough to get out of it. But if you can keep yourself, up and positive, it's much easier to kind of get through those little stumbles.
Right, but everybody's got to be aware there's going to be stumbles.
Right.
Nothing's linear of success. And there's ups and there's downs. As long as you keep going forward, that's fine. But people have to realize that it's not all peaches and cream all the time. Like, you're going to have the downs. And like you said, a problem presents itself, you find a way out of it, an exit strategy, some sort of mental plan to get yourself out of that dip.
Right. So, you're an IFBB pro. Can you explain exactly what does that exactly mean? Does that mean, do you get paid to compete, or do you, being a pro, does that open the door for you to make money competing? How does that exactly work?
All right, so we'll first describe what it is. There's many different organizations of bodybuilding. NPC, IFBB. NPC is like the amateur division. It's the biggest division of bodybuilding in the United States. IFBB is a professional league of the NPC. IFBB is a world league. IFBB is like equivalent to, the National Hockey League, NBA, professional baseball. So like NPC would be like minor leagues, and then once you get out, then you turn professional. Are you getting contracts with teams? No. Will you get endorsed by companies, clothing companies, make money that way? Yes. Are guys getting filthy rich off bodybuilding? No, not at all. It's what you do with bodybuilding and the fitness industry that makes you money.
Okay.
Start a clothing line, start a supplement company, start training seminars, start a nutrition business through your name and through your success of the sport.
Okay.
Obviously, the guys in the top who are winning $250,000, $500,000, and the top shows are making money.
And that's like you said before, that there's like maybe 5 guys.
Yeah, 5 guys could probably just do it just on the winnings alone. But like that's 5 out of the whole world.
Right. And you explained to me earlier, I can't quite remember, how many actual bodybuilders become IFBB pro?
There's only 4 shows a year in the United States you can turn pro. And basically, some of these other smaller organizations, they kind of give out pro cards like their high school diplomas, where you could enter off the street. There could be only 5 guys in the show. You look halfway decent. You get your pro card your first show. You walk away. You're like, yeah, I'm a pro. when it doesn't work that with NPC. NPC, you have to win a regional show to qualify you for a national show. Then you have to win your class or the overall in the show. The overall is the winner of every class gets compared together, and then the winner of each weight classes will get the professional pro card. There's only 4 shows per year that get that. So I think they're only eligible. There's 3, 6, probably about maybe 18 pro cards a year in bodybuilding given out. Not that many.
So the odds are stacked against you pretty much. I mean, statistically, it's pretty rare to become a.
Yeah, it's very hard. You got to keep trying. Some people take 10 years. There's some top guys who've made it as an amateur being money because they're so popular who never even turned pro. Okay. I mean, some guys try 10 years in a row and never do it. Wow. Structurally, they may not have that structure of eye-pleasing physique that is superior, because there's obviously a huge genetic factor. Obviously, you got to train, you got to diet hard, you got to come in great condition. But
right.
It's definitely not. You're not doing this because it's for the money. We totally started bodybuilding because it was fun, just like I continue to do it now.
That in itself is an accomplishment, I feel like, because, just looking at the staggering statistics against you, many people would be like, well, it's never going to happen, so I'm not even going to bother. And the fact that you stuck through it and put in the time that you did is definitely awesome.
But that's the mindset people can't have. Like, you really gotta, like, it's not about if you win or lose. You're losing sight of why you did to begin with.
Right, and I think that kind of goes back to, like, if you had the goal in your head from the get-go, like, oh, I'm going to be a pro someday, you probably wouldn't have stuck with it. But you kind of chopped away at it piece by piece, and eventually you got there.
So it was a funny story when I turned pro. So, like, I took a break from bodybuilding, and I came back at it. I'm like, I got to do something myself because I'm getting depressed not indulging myself in some sort of goal. So I entered a bodybuilding show, and I had fun with it, and I won. And I'm like, oh. Like, I mean, I won shows before
Which
that.
Which one was that? Is it the
Jay
Boston?
Cutler.
Yeah, I saw
But the
that.
bottom line is I won it. Not that I put a lot of effort in, but, like, I presented my thesis 2 days before the show. I moved in the middle of my prep. I got married. Like, all these things were going on during the time, and I was kind of putting bodybuilding as just a hobby.
Yep.
And for some reason, the more I put it as a hobby and the more fun I had, the better the outcome was.
It's amazing how that works, huh?
Yeah. And so I ended up winning, and I'm like, you know what? I might try a national show for the first time. So I tried a national show the following year, and I got 5th. And there's a big stir and questionable that, like, oh my God, I can't believe he got 5th. He should have been compared to the top guys, da-da-da-da-da. And then, like, all these forums are being like, I don't know, I thought Chris Mave should have been top 2. I hope he does nationals again. And I'm like, at that point in time, I actually believed for the first time in my life that I actually had a shot at possibly becoming IFBB pro. So I did another national show, the biggest one in the United States, at Fort Lauderdale, Florida, that November. I competed in August, and I ended up winning. And it was just, it probably took a full year to actually sink in.
Wow. All right. Well, we're going to have to take another break, and we'll reset everything and keep going. So we were just talking about how you became an IFBB pro, and I'm super proud of you for that because I think it's really awesome. I think, when I met you 7 years ago, becoming a pro, wasn't even on the horizon. I knew you were a total badass, and I was like looked up to you because I was like, man, I'm gonna look like this dude someday. And you've achieved so much. What would you, of all of the things you've achieved so far in your life, what would you consider your greatest accomplishments?
I think it's actually, I can think of in 0.2 of a second, and it's 2 particular instances. And I think what makes these particular instances so surreal is a kind of like never thought I would be there. I never thought I was as good as I thought I was at anything. And growing up riding dirt bikes, I just idolized these professional motocross racers and just wanted to be them, and I just idolized it as such a fan. But a dream isn't something like, a dream is usually something you don't accomplish. It's like far-fetched. But however, that day came where I was coming closer and closer to that pro card, and then that day that I did, I just couldn't believe it. And I was a professional. My whole life since I was 5 years old to 21. I was now an AMA professional motocross racer.
Yeah.
And like, I'm not like the top guy making money and winning at the top, but like that was good enough for me to be a slow ass pro.
Hey, you made it. I mean.
And my first pro race, I actually got a good start, and I have a picture of me coming around the corner with John Dowd, Justin Bucklew, Brock Helpler, all these guys I like idolized. Damon Huffman, they're all like right next to me.
That's awesome.
And like I used to have the autograph on their wall, and it was just totally surreal. And that's one thing that I never thought I'd be there because, obviously you get downfalls and you get the opposites, the breaking bones, the wrists. You come back strong from broken ribs, and you're racing 4 races strong, and you're going great, you're going faster than you ever have been, and you're down and out again for another 6-8 weeks.
Right.
And that was psychologically taxing to work so hard, want something so bad, and then be derailed by injury, and you can't ride for another 8 to 10 weeks.
Sure.
And that's one thing that goes along with motocross is those major setbacks. And the thing is, those physical setbacks play a huge mental gash in your sail. You can let the setbacks derail you, but like you can't, because like at times I'm like, oh my God, is this not in? Is this not, these cards not in for me? But you know what? I kept going forward and kept not losing the sight of why I do this to begin with.
Right,
and then I did, and it worked. And the second one, obviously, is being a professional bodybuilder. When I first started bodybuilding, same thing. It was a dream to want to be a professional bodybuilder, and I never thought it would be ever feasible, possible. Would I have wanted it? Of course. But was that the only end all to while I was bodybuilding? No. And then when it happened, I just can't believe it. And now since it's happened, so many more surreal things have occurred.
Sure.
And then the setbacks, with bodybuilding was injuries again. Torn pec, torn tricep. I mean, you tear a muscle and it gets deformed, bodybuilding's done.
Yeah, right.
Because now the muscle's visually deformed, and now you're never going to get it back. And adios muchachos.
Right.
So like a lot of injuries, it takes a lot of thought and prevention of injury to keep progressing forward, yet to push yourself enough to grow.
Right.
And to continue, because the older we get, the more fragile our body gets.
Right.
And the setbacks I got when I was getting ready for my first national shows, I tore my pec. I couldn't even pull the blanket, a sheet, over my body. And I'm like, I think this. And at one point, that point right there, I really thought that this was it.
Yeah.
I thought that lifting was actually going to be over.
Wow.
And that was a major, rip in my sail. I never thought I'd catch wind, but
sure.
It only took 24 hours, and I was back to rehab, and I was motivated again.
Right. Now, what's the lifespan of a bodybuilder? Like, as far as career goes, how long do you think you could keep this up? The training,
I guess,
getting big, and then cutting down.
I guess that's not how long you can keep it up, it's how long you want to keep it up.
Gotcha. How long does your diet and what's your season look like? When do you start dieting for a show, and how long does that take?
Usually I'll lose 30 to 40 pounds of body fat until I have virtually no body fat.
So what do you walk around at naturally? What's your body weight?
Well, in the off season I'm around 257, and then I compete. I compete in the 212 pro division. Wow. So there's 2 divisions in the pros, and that's above 212 and below. And I'm not big enough to be in the big boys.
Okay.
So I'm sucking down to 212. So I got about 10 pounds left in the last 2 weeks.
Wow.
But I'll make it there. Yeah, drop some water, manipulate it a little bit. But, off season, 257. I've been dieting since Christmas. So December, January, February, March, April. So, a few months to get the body fat off. You want to take enough time to slowly take it away. That way you don't rip the muscle away with it.
Right. So, and how tall are you?
5'9".
You can't really tell with the big sweater, but Chris is a big boy. I remember when I first met him, actually through my wife, a friend of a friend, Chris was helping a friend, and she said she had a coach, and I was like, oh, okay, that's cool, I'll meet him. And I remember seeing the shoulders on this dude. I was like, what the hell? Most of the bodybuilders I met were kind of these kooks at the gym. They're like, yo, I'm a bodybuilder. And
oh, there's a lot of those.
They're like, look nothing like you look. I mean, I looked better than most of those guys. And then when I met Chris, we went to a couple shows together, and he's like, hey, you should do a show. And I was like, oh, really? He's like, yeah, sure. So we kept in contact, and actually Chris helped me for a good year get prepped up, put on some size, and then we dieted for about 20 weeks. I think I lost, 50 or 60 pounds?
Yeah, you shredded.
Yeah, and I think it's funny because I always kind of wanted to do a show because, I had worked out forever, and I always had this nice layer of chub on me that I have now. And I kind of wanted to see what my muscles look like underneath. And I always thought it'd be kind of, fun to do a show. I'm a bit of an exhibitionist. And I valued his opinion because he was a monster. I'm like, dude, if I'm going to hire a coach, I'm going to talk to this guy. And I found that to be very effective elsewhere in my life, wherever, right now I'm kind of talking to a business counselor. Somebody's kind of helping me kind of figure out what I want to do with my business and all this stuff that I'm doing here. But for you, have you leaned on some coaches and mentors to kind of...
It's fun you say that, and I made a post the other day on the internet, and I said the biggest mistake we make in life is actually thinking we know something about whatever it is that we do. The second you think you know something about the matter, you get slapped in the face of how actually little you know. Because the more you know about a subject matter, the more you realize you don't know anything.
Right, sure.
And I think that's the biggest mistake and lack of mindset that people have, is they think they know something when they don't. Being open-minded and being able to learn and adapt and constantly improve on a physical and mental status to whatever endeavor you dive yourself into is imperative and crucial and needed for you to be able to reach your potential, period.
Right.
I mean, the arrogance that goes along with people who've been doing something for so long, and they get those people who goes, oh, he's old school. Yeah, he's old school, which means is he's an idiot and he stopped learning like 20 years ago and he's still stuck in the old mindset. The bottom line is you have to grow constantly.
Sure.
You can't ever stop growing. The second you stop growing, you stop putting your feelers out, you start realizing you know a lot, is when you stop improving, period.
Right. I also think it's important not only to seek out a mentor or a coach, but also to, like, when they give you a plan or some ideas that you kind of stick to it and you listen and you execute. I mean, a lot of people I know will seek the advice of somebody, but then not listen, or listen to like 20% of it and be like, I'll do what Chris tells me to do, but then I'm gonna throw in my other stuff, or I don't want to eat that. I'm gonna tweak my way, and then they'll be like, oh well, he wasn't a very good coach because I didn't get the results I wanted. But then you never listened. You never
right.
You didn't keep up with your part of the bargain.
But the thing is, that's like with everybody, because nobody wants to be reliable for their own failure. Because if they hire somebody and they kind of do their version of themselves, they have a fall guy.
Yeah.
And that's their scapegoat.
Yep.
Because, I mean, how often, you ever hear that expression, 80% of lawsuits could have been avoided if the jackass just apologized. Are you fucking kidding me? So it's like, if you just own up to what you did, you realize you made a mistake, you're better off than just making a scapegoat or pointing the finger. But tying into what I said before about thinking you know something when you don't, is everybody needs a mentor. Yep. Michael Jordan had a mentor. Yep. Ricky Carmichael, who's the greatest motocross racer of all time, will never be, had many mentors. So if you're diving into something and you're trying to do something and you're like, I got this myself. No, you don't. You can think that all you want. No, you don't. You're not going by yourself, because you're reducing your body and your mind's ability to learn. Instead of taking 15 years of mistakes to learn it, you could hire somebody, find somebody, a mentor that has a quality of a mindset that you don't have, and be like, wow, that guy's incredible. Now, how did he do that mindset-wise? And that's why mentors, coaches, and I mean, there's a lot of jackass ones, but I mean, like, a lot of them out there, those are really good and they're needed.
Right.
It doesn't matter what you're doing, you need it.
Yeah, and you got to kind of, I think also, like, people have a hard time committing to anything. Like, I don't know anybody who can stick with a diet for more than like 2 weeks. More than 2 weeks. And like, nobody is willing to like trust the process.
Well, that's,
you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, but not just that. That's society today. That's millennials. That's why divorce is so high. People just throw in the towel. Oh, this is difficult. I'll get a new one.
Yep.
Oh, this dog's a pain in the ass. I'm gonna give it back.
Yeah, it's too easy to.
Everybody's got options to change.
Yep.
Oh, my kid's failing. It's the teacher's fault. No, your kid doesn't do any homework.
Right.
So it's like, we're living in a society where that mindset is just flourishing and reproducing at an astounding rate.
I know, it's incredible. So who have been your mentors in your life?
You know, one of my good mentors, believe it or not, is actually my good friend, Evan Senapani. He's another professional bodybuilder. And I always tell him, I go, thank you. He goes, thank you for what, dude? I'm like, I don't mean you helped me. He goes, I didn't help you do shit. But the bottom line is, like, who he was as a person and how he, I don't know, man, like his mindset, his business mind, his choices he's made have been very strategic in my mind, whether he thinks they are or not. And I just learned so much from him in the sense of a mindset, because mindset is what carries you.
Right.
It's not the know-how. I could draw you a map to climb to Mount Everest, but if you don't have the mindset and the toughness to get there, you ain't getting there.
Right, right. And you've obviously had like athletic, mentors, in motocross and bodybuilding.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, you probably wouldn't be as successful without them.
Yeah.
And, now that you're getting into like branching out into, Universal and doing your Tuttle Diaries show, and you're doing your coaching and all of that stuff, have you looked into other mentors like in the business world as well?
Yeah, let's touch on something. When I raced motocross, I had a motocross trainer. And
yep.
he was a fat guy that smoked. And what does this guy know about motocross? But holy shit, I was placing dead last when I first started to 1 year later winning every race in my class, to the point where the parents were petitioning to get me out of the class faster because it wasn't fair. So, I mean, like, he was awesome. A mentor. And he got in my head and he pushed me probably, arguably, questionably, too hard for a 10-year-old. But, I mean, the way my mind works, he, knew that. And he manipulated my mind into believing that I could. And, so, I mean, it worked. And, like, that's my first true mentor on motocross. And, now we skip ahead. I mentioned Evan. And I have a coach now that actually helps me. People are like, well, wait a minute, you are a coach. Everybody needs a coach.
Right.
So I hired Chris Aceto, who's probably one of the best, most well-renowned contest sport coaches in the world. And great guy, learned tons from him. Just the level of understanding of the human body and how it reacts to nutrition is just on a whole new level. And that's what I mentioned before. Just when you think you know something,
yep,
you meet somebody who makes you think you know nothing.
And you have a master's in nutrition?
Yep.
Yeah.
I have a master's in nutrition, which obviously doesn't teach you like how the body adapts to body composition, changing, cycling carbohydrates and stuff, but makes you the understanding science of nutrition,
sure,
nutrition, cancer, alcohol,
okay,
that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Nutrition, disease.
But you still have to seek the advice of somebody to help you out. Knowing as much as you know, you still need to go lean on somebody.
Because one thing is this, you're always learning, man. I want to learn. I mean,
sure,
how exciting it is when you get into something and you pick up your first dirt bike magazine, BMX magazine, whatever thing, and you start reading all about new products. Like, your brain's like, oh, this is awesome. I didn't know this product does this. It's like, and I would never want to stop that learning curve.
Totally. Now, your business is kind of taken off, right?
Yeah.
Your coaching business.
Yeah.
What else are you doing?
I'm doing the coaching business, helping people prep for shows, helping people with weight loss. And obviously that's a growing experience. I get better every year, more efficient, more effective, better dealing and counseling people, constantly learning. It's become more of a passion.
So are you dealing mostly with like bodybuilder contest prep clients, or do you also work with, normies? Like
50-50. I have a lot of people I help with like diabetes management, general weight loss, low in cholesterol, nutrition, gout, sports nutrition, bodybuilders. Those are my name clientele. Most of it's weight loss.
Okay.
General weight loss, getting healthy. You get some people with like polycystic ovary syndrome from being overweight, and metabolic syndrome and things like that, which I help with because I understand that. And that's where the school comes in.
Sure. Okay. Do you see yourself like doing seminars and producing literature someday, or do you think you'd...
Producing literature, definitely not. I rather speak to people and help people because I really enjoy teaching and helping people. I do speak to college classes about nutrition and what I do my business and sports nutrition. I do that. St. Joe's, I did my master's there, so they asked me to come back and speak. But educations, I like that. I like speaking openly off the cuff. But like literature and magazines and stuff like that, I'm not a big fan of writing. I like speaking.
Gotcha. I think I'm a better writer. My mind is like, my mouth can't keep up with my mind. I notice like some of these podcasts, I'm like marble mouth because I'm like, blah, blah, blah.
It's funny. I'm like the opposite. I speak so much clearer, and I try to write it. I'm like, what the hell did I just write?
Oh, really? I'm the other way around. Like, writing forces me to slow down and form my my thoughts. Where like speaking, I just come off like like a crackhead.
Yeah. I'm the opposite. I'm a crackhead on paper. You read that paper, you're like, what are you saying?
That's wicked funny.
Yeah. We worked together. We had a perfect team.
Yeah. All right. So, you're doing the bodybuilding and you're kind of branching out in other business ways, doing the coaching, doing, the supplement stuff. How did you plan for the influx of clients? Because before you had, a handful of clients, correct? And then now you have clients everywhere. Now, and it's funny because my mentor said to me, all right, you can do all this work, but what are you going to do when people start coming and they want you? So, like, how did you handle that? Because I have no idea.
Honestly, it all started with some guy in the gym asking me, can I do his diet for a show? I said, sure. Give me $50. And then it turned into, you do it, and then you start learning, and then somebody else asks you, and then you got 2 people, and then word of mouth, and then you go. And then just really over like last 5 years, it's progressed into 100+ clients all across the United States and the UK, Canada, everywhere. And basically, I don't advertise because, I don't want that classic client, because I'd rather it spread word of mouth, first of all. But basically, it's kind of morphed, and how I handle it is basically, oh my God, I'm overwhelmed. I have a problem. I have to figure something out. Mm-hmm. It's like you get a problem. This is too much overload. I'm having trouble communicating, getting my information across to my clients. Process improvement. What can I do? Okay. And then developing new ways to communicate, new protocols, Q&A page of commonly asked questions, so you don't repeat the same question 700 times. Right. Good. Forms to fill out, templates that I can easily modify to fit a client's need. Okay. A form of communication for them to fill out and send back to me, so it's all the information is in one email instead of playing 5 email tags. Gotcha. So like I'm getting better and better all the time and more efficient, and it's helping them even more and helping me manage that. Sure. But more importantly, it's like I'm able to get a better, more accurate decision and being able to make a change appropriate to the plan that fits better based on, their feedback. Because, sometimes you don't know what questions to ask, and then you start to realize, well, that's a common reoccurring problem. I'm going to include that in my questionnaire and my check-in format, so I have that in every email. And did you write that up yourself? Is that something you developed, or is that something you found or somebody kind of told you about? No, I developed it myself. Wow, that's really cool. So I'm constantly adding and constantly changing things. I spent today a good hour manipulating a lot of my forms. Okay. Making it more clear. Because sometimes you look at it, you're like, oh, that's clear. And then you get 20 people ask you the question. I'm like, wow, is it not clear? Maybe it's not that clear, right? Right. You have a understanding of it. Understanding, but you have a base. I mean, if you have 20 people asking the same question, then you have proof right there. You have data that, okay, well, I need to address this. Okay. So basically, it's a problem. You get a problem, and now you have to address it, or it's going to be a reoccurring problem. And then if you have one reoccurring problem on a client, now you have 500 clients, now you have 500 problems. Yeah. Okay. You're always going to have problem clients in situations of problems, but just like any surviving businesses, like McDonald's, sales go down. Why? Yep. It goes down because the trend is changing to healthier eating. Okay, we need to offer healthier eating plans. Yeah. So someone said, sometimes I ask for feedback. I'm like, oh, how was the plan? And they go, it was really good, but I could have used an extra tighter leash. I would like to check in twice a week instead of once a week. Okay, great. That's very needed information. Sure. Great. And then you start adopting things like that. Okay. That's interesting, because like I said, for myself, it's like I'm doing all this work, and God willing, something happens and something comes of it. But it's a thought that, and I'm like, what am I gonna do if somebody comes knocking on the door, or several people knock on the door? Am I gonna be in a place that I can even handle that influx? You are.
Hopefully.
Because you'll adapt. You have to.
You'll have to quickly,
You have to.
or you'll be gone.
Yeah.
Right?
You have to. But like a lot of the times is, it goes in waves. Sometimes all of a sudden I'll get like 17 new clients in a day.
Wow.
And then for like 4 days, it's just madness. And then as soon as the madness comes down, I'm like, I got to figure something out.
Yep.
I got to figure out how to make this a little more manageable
I bet.
when that stuff happens.
Sure.
And now I did. So like now they come in, it's like attach, bam, 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 boom, send. Phone call,
awesome.
number. Like, it's just, it just makes it way more efficient.
Yeah, I'd love to see how that works. It's funny because it's very like, there's a guy I follow, Tim Ferriss, who he's the 4-hour work week guy, and he's all about efficiency and building, selling products and services, and like he's a big proponent of those Q&A pages and forms and kind of answering questions for people up front and eliminating those issues. And I think it's very interesting that you've been able to do that on your own. That's awesome.
There's a reason process improvement PI is in every company. Mm-hmm. Because it's like sometimes it's good. It's funny is how many times we have companies that we love and they change a policy. You're like, why the fuck do they do that? Now it sucks. It's like sometimes if it's not broke, don't fix it. But if there is a problem or you can make something better, go for it.
Right.
But if it's working fine, don't touch it.
Sure.
And I feel like some companies today do too much of that. They change, and then they fail. It's like shit. Just because somebody needs a job of process improvement doesn't mean we need to keep changing something.
Right. That's awesome. That's cool. Good to know.
Yeah.
This is the kind of stuff I'm looking for. So when people say, why are you interviewing a bodybuilder? Well, I'm interviewing somebody who's come up with creative solutions to their problems and created something out of their passion. I'm gonna blow away here. And they've created something out of their passion and they've been successful. And that's really what the goal of this podcast, and that's really what the goal of this little experiment of mine is, to kind of get in the heads of people and how they're doing it, and I think it's great.
That's what ended a note is like, no matter what you do or what you try to strive for, there's going to be problems, and you're going to have to figure out a solution to that problem. Doesn't matter what you do. So like me having a bodybuilder on, how does this apply? Well, shit. My mindset applies to anything in life.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
I've had multiple problems of tearing muscles, not being able to grow, not being able to lose enough body fat, or I've had to come up with solutions and new strategies to achieve greater condition, more muscle, prevent injury, recover from injury, constantly moving forward. Because no matter what you do, you always have problems. If you don't have solutions to problems, you're not going forward.
Right.
And that's the note that everybody's got to understand is like, there's going to be problems. And that's okay, because I got a fortune cookie the other day, right?
Yeah.
And it says, oh God, I gotta remember it. Failure is champions' breakfasts, or something like that. It's something like failure's life's best teachers, and then failure is what champions eat for breakfast. Because bottom line is, you fail, you get up, you do it again, you try something different. So it's like, if you're not learning from a failure or a problem, you're not progressing forward. And just people have to understand that there's going to be problems, there's going to be failures, and not to get frustrated, to be like, oh, light bulb.
Yeah, and you gotta put yourself out there to fail in the beginning. In the first place, if you don't even put yourself out there in order to fail, you'll never be a champion.
If you're doing something and you keep moving forward, you go to the top, you never learned anything.
Right.
But shit, if you try to climb a mountain and you keep going up the wrong way, and you keep coming into booby traps or animals or whatever, you're like, wow, I learned a lot about this mountain today. Versus it's just getting a tram right to the top. Yep. And that's key. Is failures are expected. Don't get frustrated. They're a part of life. It's how you handle them that will determine if you're successful.
Definitely. That's awesome. But I think that's pretty good, Chris. I think we covered quite a bit.
Yeah.
I think we can cut it here, but if people wanted to get a hold of you or seek your counsel for a show or find out more about you, where could they? I'm
all over the internet. You can Google my name. I have a website, IFBB Pro, ChrisTuttle.com. You can email me at nutrition4you, all spelled out, no spaces, one word, nutrition4you, ct@yahoo.com. That's the best place to get a hold of me. Any questions you got about nutrition, doesn't have to relate to bodybuilding. Like I said, more than half my clients are just general weight loss, health, nutrition, gout, diabetes, managing food allergies, IBS, IBD, diverticulitis, all that kind of stuff.
Okay. And then you have the YouTube show, the Tuttle Diaries.
The Tuttle Diaries.
Which is awesome. I suggest everyone check that out. That's highly entertaining. You might learn a thing or two about how to prep food and shoot guns.
Yeah, shoot guns. American way.
Yeah, buddy. So, all right. Well, thank you again so much for taking the time to talk to me.
No
I know
problem, Steve. Thanks for having the show.
You're welcome. I know you're a super busy guy, and I appreciate it.
No problem.
And good luck in a couple weeks in the show. When is the show?
May 10th in technically New Jersey. It's called New York Pro.
Okay.
It's actually like 10 minutes outside of Tribeca Art Center, or Tribeca area.
Okay. So I'll be rooting for you, and hopefully the couple of people that might be listening to this will root for you as well.
Awesome.
So good luck, buddy.
All right. Thanks. Bud.